We are one. We are. We are one. We are. We are. And we are love. For we are one. We are, and we are light. We are. You love me so much more than I could ever know. Your love is deeper than this world will ever show. And all of life's beauty shines around this moment now. The sky and the cliffs, they seem to change my life somehow. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again. Well, here I am waiting, Lord, my life is just for you. Please unfold all the plans that you would have me do. And if all the world's just a breath and nothing's here to stay, then all of the love we feel will save us anyway. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Oh, I will never be the same, will never be the same ever again. never be the same.
Hello and welcome to another SDAQ&A. I'm Peter Dixon, your host for today and most days, I think. My very special guest is Dr. George Tichy. We'll call you George from here on in, though, if that's okay.
Of course.
Great to have you here today. You've been a regular member of SDAQ&A as far as, watching the interviews and adding comments, and I've always really enjoyed your commentary and the things you've had to say. And so I thought quite a while back, I've got to get George on the show and hear his story. Before we kick off, though, again, sadly, those watching from Facebook, I thought I'd fixed it, but comments aren't coming through from Facebook. I've got my phone open down here and I'll try and see the messages, but often they stop coming through there as well. So I apologize for that. I'll keep working on it. I'll even send a message to Restream during the interview because they apparently can watch and see what the fault is in real time. So great to have you here, George. How are you feeling today?
Very well. It's a pleasure to be here. I hope everything goes technically well. And let's go.
We started a bit late because of just weird bugs in the system, so it's incredible. It's hard to get a smooth sailing show, but here we are. We've got a good audience. Welcome, everybody. Let's just have a quick look at some of the things people are watching from Oregon. Ray says, watching from a snowy Oregon outpost, Adventists suck. Thanks, Ray. We've got watching from Quebec. Rick Dingman is here. I've got a friend who's from Quebec, and I used to say Quebec, and she'd say Quebec, and I couldn't quite get it right. So let me know there, Rick. We've got Hey George from Kimberley Green. And let's see who else. Oh, we've got a little people watching from Tennessee. How you going, Deanna? Great to have you here. So let's get started. I'm keen. Hang on. Quick shout out to Jim from Pennsylvania, and Fred's watching from Michigan. That's right, isn't it? Michigan, not Michigan. So correct me anytime I'm wrong. Quebec. Thank you there, Rick. Quebec. And it's great to have Arthur and Teresa watching from Virginia. Okay, well, let's get started. Tell us, who is George Tichy? And then I want to look at the interesting connection you have with Adventism. And have you got a little surprise for us there first?
George Tichy is a guy who has that dog that was on the picture that you published. So here she is.
Gorgeous.
This is Fifi, okay?
Look at her.
Watch out.
Hold her up close again to the screen.
Pardon?
Just put her face right up to the screen again. I know that Gillian wants a closer look.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Oh, look at that. Gorgeous.
She's about 8 pounds. She's a little bit overweight, but 3 years old.
Oh, gorgeous.
It's a great dog. She's sleeping here with me, just making sure, she's looking at me to check, make sure I don't make any mistake. No gaps here.
Huh? She's the moderator.
But back to your question. Well, very quickly, I am Czech, basically. My family everyone's from Czechoslovakia. My brothers and parents, late parents. And I'm the only one who was born actually in France after the war. And then we went to Brazil, and we lived next to the Brazilian college, the Adventist Brazilian college, called at that time Brazilian College. So across the highway we lived, and so I studied in that school for 16 years. And well, later on, I became a psychologist here in California, in the States, and worked as a psychologist. Retired about 3 years ago, and I retired basically, age. I'm 73, but I could still work, but I can't. I developed my macular degeneration, so I cannot read or write. I don't see it. The central vision is gone. I see everything around.
Around it. So
So
it's like a black spot in the middle.
It's blurry. If I'm looking at your eyes, I don't see your eyes. I see everything around. If I look to the side, I see your eyes, but that doesn't help much for pictures or writing or reading. So on the computer, I use the system, highlight and listen to everything. I can read, let's say, 5% of it. Doesn't help much. And so I'm retired and had a long history within Adventism, a lot of bumps. And what else do you want to know?
Well, I'm interested in the bumps.
In the bumps.
Take us back to your early involvement with Adventism and some of your memories of even your college years.
I got 16 years of education. My first degree in college was theology. I took 4 years of theology in our school there, with a major in systematic theology, minor in education. I didn't want to be a pastor. I want to teach. And so I went finally to a school. I was called to teach in a school in another state. I lived in São Paulo City. But then I was called to another state, Espírito Santo, and worked there in a boarding school for about only 5 months. That was very unfortunate because I had to resign due to my conscience. I could not do what they wanted me to do. There was a director there saying, if you don't support everything I do here, I'm going to fire. So in May of 1973, I put my resignation, went back to São Paulo. I could not do that. That was too crazy. There was an American missionary working there too. He came back to the US too for the same reasons. And then went back to São Paulo, got involved in some business with my father. And later on, I got a master's in psychology. But in 1980, and here we go, okay? In 1980, a friend of mine told me, "Oh, have you seen what they did to Des Ford?" No, I was not aware. The information doesn't flow that well to other countries.
Mm.
So making short, I got Des Ford's book. That's the Glacier View document in book. And I started reading that, and I could not believe. My English was limited. I could not talk or even understand, but I could read. And I could not believe what I was reading. So I was studying. Then I got Numbers, Prophetess of Health. I got White Lie. I got Paxton's The Shaking of Adventism. I got, you name it, I got it. The magazine Verdict. I was reading Spectrum already. I was devouring things. And I could not believe that the church that I loved, the church that I grew up in, I was raised in, did that to me. Dishonesty. That they lied. They kept the information, hidden.
Before that point, were you a traditional Adventist, having a more of a historicist view, Ellen White high on a pedestal, that kind of thing? Are you saying that the treatment of Des Ford shook you because of the new information theologically that he was presenting, or the way he was treated, and you'd already had his kind of
Both.
theological view?
Both. He was treated and theologically, the theology. I opened my eyes. And then I remember an interesting case when I was a student still, probably in 1971, in my third year. There was a professor there. Someone here may know him, may have known him, Jerome Justison. He was a marvelous professor, a missionary there as a professor. And he was very, very knowledgeable, very talented, was gifted. And I was his student secretary for 2 years, actually. Usually it's one. I got two, we became good friends. But at that time, as a student, one day, I asked him a question. I don't remember what was it. Something probably related to the sanctuary. I don't know. And he said, he looked at me and said, George, read the book of Hebrews. Don't stop reading the book of Hebrews. I didn't. I didn't listen to him. Because the involvement I was doing, actually, I was taking 2 degrees at the same time, theology and education at night. So I was too busy to read Hebrews. Well, then in 1980 or 81, when I was reading this book, I understood why I should have read Hebrews. Right. And then I started reading Hebrews and learned how to read Hebrews, not verses here and there, as Adventists like us to do, or one chapter here, one chapter next week. No, you will read the whole thing at once every time and keep reading. Suddenly it will pop up. It's right there. You see, it's right there. So it's either Ellen White or Hebrews. Pick one. Now these days they are discussing, so many people discussing these issues and trying to, both sides. And I'm looking and say, what aren't they getting? Read the book of Hebrews and shut up. That's so simple.
Interesting.
But, the theological things. So I continued with that. And then, of course, someone in the church learned that I was reading Ford, was someone from the family, actually a family, and all that. And there was a tension in that church because of me, So finally, one day, the secretary of the division, Mario Veloso, came to my home, make an agreement. You just shut up about this thing, and the local church will treat you normally. You'll be treated, you will be able to, offer a prayer and do your things. I was actually one of the elders, or head elder at the time, I guess. And for my family, I did. I say, okay, I don't need to talk about it. But of course, the church didn't do their part. And so in 1985, I asked to be dismembered, this fellowship. I joke with dismembering.
Dismembered.
It took them 10, they didn't want to do it because it would be a shock to the community, too big. And I said, look, I'm out. I found a Baptist church right here. There was an American pastor my age, a brilliant preacher. I learned grace in that church. We stayed there for almost 4 years. And it took them 10 months to disfellowship me. Because the church didn't want to do it, send it to the conference. The conference, sent to the division. They sent it to the division. And then one of the secretary of education, that was my teacher in school, and we are still friends. And he said, told the board, he's not going to stay. I know it and all that. So they finally took me out. So that was the bump in Brazil.
So your name still is off the roll officially?
Then we stayed in that church, Baptist church, for 4 years. then we came to America, to Riverside. We attended the Seventh-day Baptist Church in Riverside for 4 years. And then Smuts Van Rooyen came as a pastor of the Jurupa Church in Riverside. In years past in Brazil, I had translated and spread some materials from Smuts. So I met him, and I finally became a member there. It was a circumstance. It's just a funny story for another time, but I became a member there. You know, if you are rooted for so long, you have the connections. So I was accepted by profession of faith and got even a job to teach Bible at Glacier Academy for 1 year and a half. So yeah, I was just feeling at home. But I actually got the job teaching Bible. They knew I was a Fordite.
Right.
I was an extreme Fordite. They knew it, but Southern California, they didn't care.
Yeah.
You
Bit
teach
more, yeah. What would you say is the difference between a Smuts Van Rooyen, Des Ford, George Tichy Adventism, as opposed to a Doug Batchelor, Andreessen kind of Adventism? And a Ted Wilson Adventism? How would you define the difference between the two groups?
I think that the two groups have one big difference. One I would call biblical Adventism. The other group I would call whiteist Adventism. There's no in between, Peter.
Just sorry to interrupt, but what I've discovered with the biblical Adventist, or as I call them, the gospel Adventists,
Yeah.
I've discovered that they still love Ellen White. They still want to involve her in some way in their Adventist viewpoint. Have you just like even Des in that wonderful October 27, 1979 Spectrum, forum? He still speaks highly of Ellen there. Would you say that? So you're saying that one focuses on the Bible, one hugely includes Ellen G. White as a lens to the Bible. Is that the big difference?
I'll give you my difference and the Adventism, the other side. I cannot speak for other people because my turning point was when I realized that the church had duped me for years and all its members, and that there were lies, there was dishonesty involved. Then, for example, 1844. So there was that idea from another story from Hiram Edson and all that stuff. He had a whatever in the cornfield, and Ellen White supported that, and she said that she had a vision, and that was a lie because Hebrews will not allow in the Bible allow her to have a vision that contradicts Hebrews. So that's dishonesty in the open. How many dishonest instances does a prophet need to present to it for people to finally say, that's it?
Yeah.
So what I see, they are trying to kind of go around, and all that. Look at this meeting. It's another story, but this meeting in Angwin, in those people recent conference, they called it. The statement that they came with, it just trying to, cook the books.
Yeah.
I just cannot do that. So Ellen White for me is not a significant person in my Christian life, because look at the plagiarism. Just read the documentation that Steve Daly offers. And others now, Thunder, look at the EJ Thunder. I read it.
Mm.
Oh my gosh. So it's either or.
Do you think, like, since leaving the church officially, I have trouble grasping this notion that, and in season 2, I think you watched some of the interviews from there where we were looking at Glacier View, and I interviewed everyone from George Knight to Des Ford to a whole 86 interviews in season 2, and I have trouble grasping this fact that when the scholar or academic or Adventist from grassroots to top level leadership like you suddenly goes, hang on, I've been duped, these are lies. Ellen White confirmed Hiram Edson's cornfield vision via a God-shown message. When they come to that point, why don't they go, whoa, I can't put my name to this anymore? Because if it is a lie, if Adventism is based on a lie cultivated by Ellen White's visions, the church wouldn't have grown if it wasn't for Ellen White, that's for sure. People were drawn to her visions and the majesty of these visions and her telling of them or going into vision at meetings and whatnot. And I'm not judging people for staying at all in the slightest. You can tell by watching my interviews, I'm supportive of people that stay. But I have this query in my own mind is that once you go, hang on, I've been duped, this is a lie, why do so many of these progressive Adventists, gospel Adventists stay? Are they staying because they think things can change, or because of cultural reasons, or lots of reasons? What do you think some of the reasons are?
For some of them, is employment. They might be progressive, but is employment. Another point is very difficult to unroot yourself. It took me years to finally feel unrooted, because the brainwashing, especially when it starts at early age, the child age, you are so rooted in that. Your network is there, your social network. It's very difficult to go where you go. So it's fear. Fear is behind the scenes very, very strongly here. Because, I cannot go to the Baptist, I cannot go. Well, why can't you? Because you were told that you can't not. I spent 4 years and plus the Baptist, the Seventh-day Baptists, and that was a great experience. It's much better than being in church, in the Adventist church, listening to these sermons, filled with Ellen White, and you don't know if that is plagiarized, that portion that is presented or not. So it's so I don't know, it's so confusing. Some people cannot leave, and I don't blame them, I don't judge them. Your faith cannot fail. When I was in Brazil still, right after I read this Ford's book, I wrote him, and for the years we spent there, another 9 years before coming to the US, he was corresponding with me, and he was sustaining my faith. I wish I had all the letters that he sent me. I don't know.
You had quite a connection with him.
Yeah.
You had quite a connection back and forth with him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And when I went to the Baptist church, Seventh-day Baptist, because he went there for a conference on a weekend, and he sent me a note, George, I will be at the Baptist church close to your home. And I was there Friday night, and after the meeting, he called the pastor and said, Pastor Gabriel Bejani, look, who is a former Adventist pastor too, is a pastor at that Seventh-day Baptist. And that's introduced me to him and say, here's George, just came from Brazil. Take good care of him. I cannot thank Des more than that, because he introduced me to that, and that changed our lives right there, because the connections and all that we needed was great. And every year he would come to that church for a conference on a weekend with other people, and was a great thing. Sometimes he would come to us to a church, say, George, I'll be there. So I walked with Des a couple of times, half an hour before preaching. He liked to walk. I like walking too. So we went for a walk, and then he jumped on the pulpit and delivered the message. It was so funny. But I owe him a lot. And Geo Ford has been a very good friend for a long time. Online, we never met, but our hearts are very close.
Yeah. He had such a huge influence on the church. It kind of exploded 79 with that forum meeting, and then Glacier View. There was like this big sense of hope that was dashed upon the rocks.
Yeah, if I can interject you, I think I'm saying it for a long time. Glacier View was probably the last opportunity that the Adventist Church had to reform, to correct the error. They didn't take it. There was 1919, was a big thing. So every once in a while came this thing, and boom again. And Des put everything together. There was Bellinger, in the past. Bellinger actually became member of the Seventh-day Baptist Church in Riverside after he was kicked
I
out from
didn't
the
know
church.
that. Wow.
Yeah. And so Des put everything nicely together. And the church said, no, Ellen White is more important than anything else. So the conclusion is, I always say that you can touch anything, touch any doctrine in Adventism, fine. Don't touch Ellen White. You touch Ellen White, you're out.
Yes.
This is not a church. This is a cult, or a sect, actually. So, in my opinion, that's the reality, at least for me. I thought that Des was 30 years ahead of our time at that time. I said, 30 years from now, the church will accommodate and get. No, it's 43 years gone, and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
The church is being radicalized by Ted Wilson now for years, and it's getting worse.
Yeah, and the other thing I have observed that frustrates me a little bit with the progressive gospel Adventists is that they talk about change, but they don't. There's no action. Like I chatted to a guy who was quite high up in the church, was being kind of trained for high level positions. Excuse me. And I said to him, okay, well, so you're telling me things are changing and I shouldn't have left the church, and women's ordination and and some of the Ted Wilson compliance documents that I said, but what's going on behind the scenes? And he said, oh, don't you worry, mate, there's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes. Things are changing, things are going to change. I don't know why that's coming through. I've got my airplane mode. I just want to double check that I do. Yeah. And so I pressed him on it. I said, look, just tell me. I won't even tell anybody. I just want to know what kind of actual plan of attack, not a war, but what are you guys actually doing to bring about this change? Prior to Ted Wilson with the Jan Paulson leadership, there was a sense that things were being, there was a diversity, there was a sense of a place. Progressives felt like they were starting to be able to speak up a bit more. A lot of the Des Ford kind of teachings had permeated the church. Anyway, come Ted Wilson, that's declining. And I really wanted him to pinpoint something. And eventually he said, look, okay, there's nothing. There is no plan. And I said, well, why did you tell me there was? And he said, well, I know they all want them. I know the progressive leaders want change and they desire it. And so they kind of speak up for it. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I want, what is the plan of attack? And the progressives don't, they nestle into, oh, well, we've got the money, or, oh, don't you worry, the higher moral ground is on our side. I just don't see any action, but I see lots of very thought out political action from the traditional Adventists. They're organized, monetized, focused, angry. They want the progressives out. Why is that? Why are these?
It's simple.
Yeah, tell me.
It's simple, Peter, because you have as a good former Adventist, you would like to see this happening. I don't want to discourage you, but the Adventist church is not going to change. They cannot change because any real change, honest change, intellectually honest and solid change would require a reformation of doctrine, especially the 1844 heresy or fairy tale. It's not going to happen.
I agree.
The GC and the conservatives are radicalizing. Look at Ted Wilson's sermon on the annual council of 2018.
Yeah.
Sabbath morning. He clearly declares that he is a what I call LGtarian. LGtarian.
Yeah, LGtarian.
Which is nothing but, LGT is nothing but the old perfectionist heresy in new clothes. That's the way they found to introduce successfully perfectionism in the church. It was tried several times in the past, in many years ago, several times, never succeeded. So they put a nice name. Now it's LGT, Less Generation Theology, which for me is just BS. And for BS, I mean beautiful statements, right? Okay, beautiful statements. It's nothing but that. But the president of the GC is an LGtarian. So how can anything change there? The progressives, they try to be in between. You see, they try to kind of manipulate things, and maybe I have been saying this for years. The church is not going to change.
Yeah.
Stay in it if you want, but if you expect change, that's not going to happen.
And I guess what I was saying there is that I would rather the progressives say to me, it's not going to change. Sorry, we told you it was.
Yeah.
And if I was an Adventist still, if they'd told me that then as well. What I don't like is realizing that they've known all along themselves probably it wasn't going to change. Or some of them do think it's going to change. But I just didn't want the false hope. They were just giving me false hope year after year after year. And I stayed. I didn't leave till I was 55. And I committed my life to it. And Rodney's written in the comments there, Peter, you sing it. Yeah, he's always telling me that, but he's put here, Peter, you sing the gospel all day long. The reality is that the songs I play at the intro, they were recorded 20 years ago. I don't sing those songs anymore. But my point is that if we have been duped and told lies, often it's by the people we thought were the good guys. Let's say if you look at 1919 and your Daniels and your Prescotts, I kind of would have seen them as the good guys, and they were saying, hey, look, if we don't do this, if we don't be really honest with the members, things are going to go pear-shaped. And obviously the minutes went missing till the 70s, and the action wasn't taken to be more honest. So for a long period of time, we can say we were duped by the traditional Adventists. But in the new era, post 1957, in the questions on doctrine, in the new era of Des Ford and Ray Cottrell and people like yourself and Smuts Van Rooyen and these guys bringing in this new Adventist gospel, they got to a point, surely, when Ted Wilson got in and started realizing, hang on, this is a lot more complex than we thought. This is not going to change. At that point, I would have liked them to tell people like me, the grassroots people, of their fears. But instead of doing that, instead of having the honest conversation with the people like me, they kept going, oh, no, it's going to change. It's going to change. So that's kind of what I'm referring to, is I feel let down by those people that when they knew it wasn't going to change, or that they were just offering false hope, I feel duped by them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and you were. This is, you see, I'm very honest with you and with the audience.
Yeah,
It's not going to change. We know that. Those people who do that false hopes, it's ridiculous and it's sad, because they're playing they're playing with people's minds.
Yeah.
And now, remember, North America is one thing. Here we have these programs in Australia, like you and all that. But in Africa, South America, and all that, man, there's no possibility of even, I have friends that don't want to even listen about anything. Everything is okay. The church remnant is a remnant forever. You mentioned the minutes from 1919. I remember years ago, there was a guy on Spectrum, and we became very good friends. Age Rendalen from Norway. Norway. Age Rendalen. Actually, Adventist Today, Lauren Seibel interviewed him before he died. He died a few years ago. Age was a student at Andrews. And he went to the library for something. He was looking for something. And the librarian told him or gave him something. And suddenly he looked at that. And there was a copy of the Minutes of 1919. He made, if I'm not mistaken, 50 copies, in the old...
When did that happen? Sorry to interrupt. When did that happen? When did he find that?
1976 or 79.
He's the one that actually brought them. He's the guy that kind of made them available to the public.
Yeah. Now they claim, I saw some people claiming that someone found some other source or something like that. No, he made 50 copies, Peter, on these old duplicators on alcohol, remember?
Yes.
Yeah, he made copies of a part of it or so, distributed there. And that was it. Then, they were found. By accident. They should have been destroyed, actually, if they didn't want public to see it. And look what was revealed, what was exposed.
Yeah.
Horrible thing.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
But outside of the US, that's another story. This is why the GC, always gets a president that's elected out there by people from there, and they don't touch anything. The church still has the power in filtering. Filtering is very strong. Imagine 40 years ago, when I started reading a book, and some people in church learned that I'm reading that book, the secretary of the division comes to my home to make an agreement. Come on, what is this about? This is mafiosi style. Or Soviet-style manipulation.
Yeah, it's a kind of a mild version of fascism.
Yeah, but back to your just for a second, when you say I feel it. I have seen you saying this before several times. You want honesty from those people, and you are not seeing the honesty, the total honesty.
Yeah.
You see, rarely would someone say what I'm saying. No, and I'm saying this for years on the
Mm,
blogs and everything.
mm.
I always write, no, don't be mistaken. The church is not going to change. The church cannot change.
Yeah. So what do you see as your personal solution? I had a funny random last minute interview at midnight last night with John Rosier.
I saw
We
that. I watched it.
Oh, good. We'd been trying very hard for a couple of years to be able to for some reason, his laptop wouldn't talk to this program. I could only do things with Zoom,
Yeah.
and it would be very annoying because I'd have to upload it later, and it wouldn't go into the section where most people would get to see it. So we spent about 4 hours. That's right, we did a test run, you and I,
Hmm.
and then I was gonna do a 5-minute quick thing with him, and, I had to go and do another meeting, and when I came back, we spent a good 3 or 4 hours and finally did get it working, and I said, "Let's just go live now." Um, and he was talking about this topic where, um, he was saying the same thing. It's not gonna change. And what he does, they have their own little church there. I couldn't quite work out what he said for some reason with the mic or something, Lamington Church in the UK there. And so his kind of solution is not really to wait for the church to change. He knows it's not. So he redirects what he sees as gospel Adventism into this church. And there's over 100 members, and it sounds very vibrant and, like it's really happening. But what I see with most progressives, though, who admit it's not going to change, instead of boldly saying that publicly, that's why I love having you on the show. And that's why I love your comments, because you are bold about what your stance is. And so my next question is, why aren't they being bold? Is it about jobs again and employment? A lot of them I've noticed since retiring are being more forthright. You saw my
Hmm.
interview with Bill Johnson. And I don't criticize him for being open. That moment where I asked him, "Do you believe that something's happened supernaturally in 1844? How confident are you?" And he had that big long pause, and I don't know how to answer that. He said, "People say I'm trying to make him look bad for saying that." No, I watched him and I thought, wow, he went through like 30 seconds of, "Am I going to be honest and authentic? Yes, I am going to be." And so he said, "I can't really answer that." So I was proud of him and thought that was a great moment. Um, but again, why do you think, even when they've retired, some of these guys, why isn't there a bold, we're grasping the Des Ford version of the Adventist gospel, and let's start little pockets of church groups here and there? What's stopping the bold claiming of the Adventism that they want to see manifesting?
That's a difficult question because it would involve organizing, and I don't see how those elements could organize. Um,
So if we
yeah,
look at John Rosier, they years ago, I think they started this particular church group, uh, could be 20, 30 years ago. They saw the need, they gathered together, they pretty much took over the church, they controlled the how it was operated, and it's not even a company, it's an actual Adventist church. I think there are ways to do it. I'm trying to work
yeah,
out.
locally, I think that this is a way to go, because look, any church that grows too much, after a certain point, it gets it becomes a mess.
Right.
It happened with everyone. So I don't think that having a big organization is now the Adventist
Well,
Church, like others,
I see
it's a
the reason.
corporation.
Yeah, I see that. I've chatted to Gillian about this. Why didn't GNU, after Glacier View, Good News Unlimited, why didn't that formulate into an actual church? They had the
Hmm.
numbers, and she said the same as you. The organizations always have problems. I'm not talking about why aren't they organizing. I'm talking about why aren't they boldly speaking this gospel Adventism
Ah,
publicly, and just gathering together in small groups is fine, or little pockets here and there. but it's like pulling teeth to get a progressive Adventist who has to say, look, I believe Ellen White was wrong there with 1844, and I believe the good news of Adventist gospel is here. Let's talk about it. It's hard to get even a one-on-one conversation with them to do that. I guess I'm trying to tease in because you know these guys better than me. You know, and by guys I mean the people in this good gospel Adventist, biblical Adventist community. So you kind of know how they think. I'm at the generation below, and I'm just watching and going, I'm confused. Why do you think they just don't want to boldly speak and support this kind of I guess I don't want to say Des
I
for
don't
teaching,
know,
but
Peter.
a
I
new
don't
Adventist
know
scholar.
the answer for that. I can tell you one thing. I can tell you what I did. With all that stuff, COVID hit, and we went online, right? Everyone went online. And that was my opportunity to stay online for the rest of my days.
Interesting.
And I'm getting much more spiritual meat and experience online than when I think about going. I live about 1 kilometer from the conference here. This is a Utah and Nevada conference. I never went there, but that some people, some family went there to check, and they have some meetings Saturday. There's a big church in Reno too, about 20 minutes from my home here, but I never went there. What I did is this. I found the E14 Sabbath School in Australia. I started attending probably a year ago. I never missed one meeting. That's the best
They're
group,
good, aren't they?
and that's it. This is my church.
That's so good to hear. I sometimes people hear me
Then,
say, why are people hiding in little Sabbath school rooms? I do not mean the E14 guys.
no,
I think what they're offering
E14,
is incredible. And they
yeah.
have such a large community now that they've gone online with their weekly, you can join and watch from anywhere in the world.
Yeah,
And
I go to Sligo Faith and Reason. I attend that one too. You know, almost everyone is retired. There's freedom too. They talk openly, but they are still in between. And everyone is actually a very faithful Adventist, even though they know things. And that's fine. They're good. And then I attend every week too the Adventist Today seminar, Sabbath Seminary. Those are three
where's that one?
meetings that I attend, and now your shows.
Yeah.
But from those three, I get much more than going to any church and being there and the announcements and this. I'm meeting more people. I made more friends now than in church. In church is hi bye, good morning. Let's sit down and pray now. In those groups, we make very good friends.
And
So
maybe
spiritually, I'm getting much more now. I don't want to go to the other stuff. There's nothing there. It's vague.
maybe because of I don't know if you've heard the term maven. A maven is a person that when they act and take a step forward, people are more likely to follow them because of the previous confidence people have had in them as a person. And I see you as a maven because some of these groups, like the E14 and the other Sabbath School place, and there's ones, is it Glacier, and there's little pockets of these gospel Adventists all over the place, gathering online every week. And they're a little bit hesitant to kind of go public and bold. But what I'm feeling a little bit excited about is that people like yourself are being very public and bold. And I think that's going to encourage them. So we might be on the edge of a big change within the
Maybe.
Adventist church, where the progressive Adventists, the gospel Adventists, the biblical Adventists suddenly go, hang on, we do want to be a bit more public about this. Come along to our Sabbath school, or and not, it's not organizing. You're just saying, let's gather and discuss the word.
And I congratulate your work, because you have been very, very instrumental in in publicizing this and getting people from other side, every side. I'm very vocal about it for a couple of reasons. I will tell you. I am 94% Slav. So
Right.
Jan Hus and I, we might have something in common because actually we came from the same area.
Yes.
So
There's
we go for it. Okay, there's nothing.
there's a willingness to speak your mind.
Yeah. Another thing in my family, freedom was a major thing for my parents. They left. You can actually, there's a link. If you could put that link in the forum that I sent you, people could read a marvelous story that I wrote. It's online about their experience through the war and all that. They escaped
yes,
communism.
is that the family link or the?
Yeah, the Tichy story, that link, and I sent you that, right?
Yes, at the 1 hour mark, we're going to just have a 5-minute break. I
Uh-huh.
might get you to find that and send it to me, and then I'll just to save me going and
I
finding.
will.
You
I
might
have
your
it
hands
very
on it,
easily.
and then I'll bring it onto the actual screen because I
And so
really
what
want
I'm
to.
saying, look, is the freedom. Freedom is very important. And in churches, this is a problem. Freedom and fear are competing so much. The churches use fear. Oh, if you don't do this, if you don't believe Ellen White, how many people I heard saying, if you don't believe in Ellen White, you are not an Adventist.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care. I'm a Christian first. Who cares about the other stuff? You see?
And as a lay person, do you have more freedom with that? Like if you were an ordained pastor now, would you be able to say that?
I thought about it several times. If I had stayed as an employee in 1973 in that school, in 1980, if I had learned what I learned, I'm sure I will give back my credentials, and that was it.
Yes.
No,
yes.
I sometimes I thought, no, I would not do that for
That's
anything.
because it's the
I
reticence.
don't want to put the impression I'm, a beggar or something else.
No.
It's in the blood.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of commenting on what I see as a reticence from those who have the ability to bring about conversation, their opinions. They don't. Let's have a break now. We'll come back in 5 minutes, and I want to
send you there to Messenger. You want to read
yes,
Messenger?
if you send it to Messenger, I will cut and paste that in the meantime.
Okay.
And when we come back, I want to unpack why the reticence is, but I want to bring some positive stuff to this conversation. I want to share maybe what it looks like for Gospel Adventists to hang out together a bit more. And then I want to chat and tease apart something that I started talking about with John last night, but I wanted to kind of continue the thought. Ellen talks a lot about, hey, if don't listen to me, go to the Bible. If I'm wrong, go to the Bible. But when juxtaposed with her, I saw this from God, this is true. Ooh, that's a sticky one. I want to unpack that a bit more. Okay. So everyone, stick with us. Go and get yourself a nice drink if you're in a cold climate. Get something warm if you're in a hot climate like here. Get something cool, and we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay.
You love me so much more than I could ever know. Your love is deeper than this world will ever show. And all of life's beauty shines around this moment now. The sky and the cliffs, they seem to change my life somehow. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again. Here I am waiting, Lord, my life is just for you. Please unfold all the plans that you would have me do. And if if all the world's just a breath and nothing's here to stay, and all of the love we feel will save us anyway. And I will never be the same, never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again. Love me so much more than I could ever know. Your love is deeper than this world will ever show. And all of life's beauty shines around this moment now. The sky and the cliffs, they seem to change my life somehow. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again. Here I am waiting, Lord, my life is just for you. Please unfold all the plans that you would have me do. And if all the world's just a breath and nothing's here to stay, and all of the love we feel will save us anyway. And I will never be the same, never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again. say.
Can you hear me? No.
Can you hear me now, George?
Yeah, now you can.
Now, yeah, for some reason, every now and again, the my audio device that I plug the microphone in just switches off, and it just did that.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
You,
Welcome back, everybody.
I sent you that link.
Yes, I've got that link, so I'm just cut and pasting that. I wanted you just to, by the way, welcome back, everyone. My guest today is George Tichy. We're having a great conversation, and we haven't had planned. We're just having a conversation, and where we find ourselves at the moment is we're talking about progressive Adventists, Bible-based gospel Adventists. I know the traditional Adventists say they are as well, but we're kind of creating terminology on the fly here just to better identify people that prefer to see the Bible with Ellen White in the back of the bus or the back seat or the seat just behind them, as opposed to seeing the Bible through her lens. And so we're going to talk about some maybe positive ways that these kind of Adventists can be a little less silent in the way they speak. And I think we've identified that if someone is working for the church, an ordained pastor, it's harder for them to maybe kind of speak a little bit more freely. And I've invited people on the show, and they've literally told me that the powers that be have said they can't. That's happened many times. And they wish they could, but they feel that they can't. And I think that's a sad statement for a church, for its leaders and its preachers and its teachers to say, look, we're not allowed to speak publicly. That's that mild form of fascism that we spoke of earlier. So that's something I'd like to address. But there are a bunch of people that are not working for the church that do want to boldly speak, gather together, talk online, and discuss these things more openly. And you've found a few places that you get to do that, particularly since lockdown. Can you share the three you mentioned earlier? We said E14 was one of them. What were the other two? And while you're sharing that,
The Faith and the Reason Sabbath School at Sligo, in the Sligo Church, and the Adventist Today's Sabbath Seminar with
right.
Lauren Seibold.
Oh, yes. Do you
That's a
think,
very good one. Has a big audience.
I'll get you after the interview to send me links to those three. I've got the E14 one, and
Okay.
I'm just going to add them to. I'll just give it a quick plug again. Part of what I'm trying to do to help these people that I know are never going to leave the church, but want to explore this kind of the theology of, would you say, the Des Ford theology, just like it's not just his, of course. There's Cottrell, there's a heap of people that see this kind of style of Adventism that's a very worthwhile kind of Adventism. I'm still trying to work out what to call it, but Stephen Beagles and myself have put together this website. If you go to adventistgospelnetwork.wordpress.com, we're just creating links that people can go to where they can find this kind of material. Good News Unlimited is there, and there's a bunch of others. But if you could send me those three, I can add them to the list. And it's just another resource for people who have this kind of mindset, can go, hey, I've got a place I can go and find some resources or meet some people.
Yeah, there are some marvelous presentations there. Like Reinder Bruinsma has been very active on this site, and it's very good. They are all very good. I'll send you the links. Yeah,
that'd be great, and I'll add them to that site. And I wanted to unpack. I'm just getting this other link. I'll just quickly get that. I can't do the two things at once. Just trying to work out how I can save the link.
I'm not following anything in the chat, unfortunately, because of my vision. I can't.
Oh yes, I might bring up a few discussions there, but I'm just trying to. Oh,
Yeah,
here we
bring
go.
the friendly ones, okay?
I've got that one now. I think I can. The problem is it's a very big link, but I'll bring up the first part of it on the screen, and that way people can go to the shorter part of the link. So I'm putting it into the group so people can click on it, and it'll just take them there. Now, I've also put a message out in the break for people over at Facebook. While we're still having this problem getting your chats into the feed, I can't see them, any of them. Adrian sent me a screenshot of a lot of them. Please go over to YouTube. I've put the link in Facebook. In that little break there, I did lots of stuff. Go and watch us on YouTube. And Gillian has, so she's putting some comments up coming through now as well. So that'll be good. And I'll just bring this up onto the screen. This is the link to what you were just talking about. If it's a big link and you won't be able to click what you see on the screen in the YouTube comments, you can click on it and it'll take you there. But if people just go to tichystory.blogspot.com, what do they search once they're there to find this story?
Oh, there's only that.
Oh, good. So those wanting to, it's easy. Just www.tichystory.blogspot.com and you'll find
it. Do it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we're going to have a little two-parter here before we finish. The one part I want to talk about some of the positive things of what does it look like for the good news, the gospel Adventist to gather together and speak more openly about their kind of view of this gospel Adventism. What does that look like? How can we steer people into that direction? And I want to then, before that, I want to tease out this idea of Ellen White saying plenty of times, "Hey, don't look at me. Go to the Bible." But if you dispute some key things, you're then disputing her claim on the vision she had to confirm these things. How do you balance that? Can we go there now just to talk a little bit about how do you personally balance that? How can people in a denomination balance that? And of course, the more traditional Adventists, and good on them, they go, she had visions, go to the Bible through her eyes. They seem to be quite bold and honest about how they take Ellen White, and I respect that.
I know that you would have at a certain point a very difficult question. and here you go. I don't know, Peter. It's I think that ideally, let's say that we had a congregation that is reformed like this. So it's the gospel Adventism. What should be the focus of that group? I think that there lays the solution. Is not thinking anymore about what happened in the past. What is happening is what is the gospel that is relevant? Because we are dealing with two different gospels here. We have the biblical gospel that's very simple. People sometimes say, define the gospel. What is the gospel? I'll come back in a second with it. But then we have the Adventist gospel. First, we have to determine which gospel we are going to focus on. If anyone want to focus on the Adventist gospel, stay in Adventist church. Whatever you're progressive or not, stay there. That's a no. Now, if you want to go with the true gospel, I read a book on Audible. I do Audible a couple of months ago from Tozer, A.W. Tozer or W. Tozer. And he came up with a very simple definition there. He was asked the same question one time, and he just said, okay, the thing is this. God created something on earth, creation, whatever, whenever it was, doesn't matter, it got created, there was a corruption. It got corrupted. And it's because of what we call sin. So he had a plan. And he himself, Jesus, put himself in action, came to earth, dealt with Satan on the cross. The cross was not about our sins. The cross was about what Satan would do to Jesus if allowed. You see? And look what he did. He killed him. He resurrected, he ascended, and he sat down at the right side of the Father, in Book of Hebrews, right there. Everything is there. If that congregation could focus on this and tell this to other peoples and preach this, what else is required in the Bible from a Christian? What else? 28 what? You see, what else? What should we take? To God, don't need this, don't need that. Well, yeah, those are issues for personal, management and all that. I chose to be almost totally vegetarian. No, my parents were vegetarians. I was raised vegetarian. I eat a little fish once in a while, but nothing else. I don't like it. But whoever eats something else, it's none of my business. You see? So a healthier approach, a healthier message. The message is the gospel. Everything else, it doesn't matter. Everything else is not part of our trip to salvation, because it's by grace anyways. You see? So I don't know how to answer your question. I see that you are craving for something there, a magic formula that you could just do something.
I guess it's like
you just threw the towel already.
It's like I guess I'd say to an Adventist member that feels that Ellen White lied, how can they remain a member? That I guess that's once you know that it's based on a lie, no matter how good it is now. I could never be a Mormon, no matter how lovely they are with family and focus on a good life and healthy living, because it's based on a lie. But maybe everything's based on a lie, and we just have to grow up and just deal with it and live with it as it is. Because I also see, and ironically, on the one hand, I'm saying, as soon as you realize Ellen White is a lie, whoa, I can't associate myself with a foundational message that is a lie.
Yeah, because
if that's what you be. I'm not even saying to people that she is or she isn't. I'm saying if a person comes to the conclusion that Ellen White is a false prophet, at that conclusion, how do they stay an Adventist? That's, I guess, and maybe I'll never get an answer, but that's my clearly saying what I want. But on the other hand, I'm also going, but if you do decide to stay, wouldn't it be great if there was a place where you could all gather together? And what does that look like? So it's a hard one for people. They go, what are you doing, Pete? What's that?
Look, from a psychological point of view, everyone is wired in a certain way. And I believe that some people are wired in a way they either don't want to, that's not wiring, that's choice, or either they can't process certain things.
Right.
Jonathan Haidt has a book. I'm missing the name right now, but I can provide later on. It's a very good one. A psychologist who studied for 20 years and then wrote a book. He went to all cultures and all that. What's the name? Okay, sorry. But he came to this conclusion that in politics and in religion, people are wired. This is why they're not going to change. no matter what. And that's so. Look what is happening in America. Can we believe?
Mm.
Just what happened today, people are discussing, oh, the president, can he assassinate his opponents and not be judged at all? He might be impugned.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, what? And some people defend the idea. Fascism, like you said. So it's in the brain. So for some people, I see in the chat, not now, but when I can in programs, other programs with you, I see that some people are very, very, the presenter is like Steve Daly. Steve Daly is presenting facts. This is documented. This is not Steve Daly talking. It's documentation. Ellen White wrote this. And people in the chat, they just don't care. They just ignore. And I'm thinking, are they dumb or are they dishonest? I don't see a third option.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to offend anybody, but there's no other option.
Yeah.
What other option?
Well, that's kind of what I'm gently trying to say.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I understand. I don't know what's wrong with me. I say, are you dumb or dishonest? If you've come to the conclusion that Ellen White is a false prophet, or that Ellen White did not, that nothing happened in 1844. If you've come to that conclusion, a part of me goes, what was it again? What were the two options you said just then?
It's either dumb or dishonest.
Yeah. So I say, one part of me goes, are you dumb or dishonest? The other part of me goes, when I listen to some of the conversations that these kind of scholars and academics, and not just scholars and academics, but there's a lovely community, which I can see, hey, that's worth preserving. So you're the psychologist. Explain that to me. Why is my brain like that? Like I had the one side that goes, that's you're deceiving yourself. That's dumb. That is just dumb or dishonest. And the other side that goes, but wow, your little gathering that you meet every week in a Sabbath school somewhere. Oh, I wish I could be a part of that. I love the way you talk and think and speak. That's worth preserving. Why do I hold those two in tension? But it's not cognitive dissonance, because I'm not trying to be both of those things, but I'm observing those things, and I can see both points of view. I can go, okay, well, you're not dumb or dishonest. Well, maybe you are, but what you've got there is worth preserving.
And I think that you are searching for something because you are not dumb, and second, you are not dishonest. You see, so you are searching for something, and when you are searching like that, when we are intellectually honest and honest with ourselves and with our neighbors, with our community, religious community, when we are transparent and genuine, well, I think that we don't even have to think much about what other people do or say, Peter, because that's their choice. They're choosing like this to do like this or to be like this. Why should they change? Because we think that they should change.
Yeah. And that's the funny part. When I think I'll go, I'm just using the terms because they're kind of funny and true, but I'll say you're either dumb or dishonest. But I still enjoy hanging out with them for lunch. I don't care what they believe. I don't care if they're dumb or dishonest. Part of me wants to go, that's a ridiculous thing to preserve. Another part of me goes, yeah, I think that's worth preserving. So I think often with some of the things, I think that it's not worth preserving because it kind of creates this nice space for people to fall into Adventism and most likely stumble across, the badder things within Adventism, the mental health creating kind of places. So sometimes I feel like, look, you guys, even gathering together in something as good as E14, you're also creating a nice warm place for people to draw to, but then might fall into some potholes. So I don't know. I have this half of me goes, boy, I'd love that just to be dissolved. And another half of me goes, Hey, but I see how socially you really enjoy the discussion, and I see how mentally stimulating it is, and that's worth preserving.
That's your gift. You see, I always say that. I said it several times. You know that you have the gift. I wouldn't be able to do what you do the way you do.
Mm.
No, I won't. I know. I would. A guy comes and says something that's so outrageous and stupid. I would say this is outrageous and stupid. And you have the gift of saying, well, interesting. Tell me more. You know, on that. No,
Yeah.
honestly, what you do is exactly you can go with one side, another side. You have this gift of having these interviews putting together, and you're collecting a marvelous assets, marvelous records of Adventist history, because you're recording so many people, different opinions, and following. You know, how many years you do it now? 7 or is?
Yeah, I think we've just hit 8 years.
Yeah. So look at this, how much data you collected from very different people. You see? So I think that's your gift. Keep doing that, because not I don't know many people who could do it as well as you do. I have seen
Thank
sometimes
you.
I'm watching your show and someone comes and says something in the chat or even in the interview, the opposite side come with some ideas that I want to explode. As a guy, well, I cannot talk now. I would say this, and this,
Yeah,
and this
yeah.
guy. And you just say, oh, okay, and now let's talk about something. That's amazing.
What I
It's
like
amazing.
about the unique platform that we've kind of created together,
Yeah.
as in all the people that are members, and is that you can have conversations with people that are very diverse. But I also love that people in the comments can say, like, you can say, this is really frustrating to me, and we can bring it up on the screen and it can become part of the conversation. And then someone else can go, oh, like what Ray said earlier, I can't remember now, about mongrel dog cult or something. I love that we can bring that into the conversation as well. So it's I don't even see it as me, though I thank you very much for those compliments, because I do feel honored to be able to do this. But there's something happening that's a collective of me being able to chat to people and being quite open to people having different views. But that we can we've got people in the membership that can really support someone and say it, or really dislike someone and say it. And it just creates, I think it's an interesting creation of social media that just hasn't been around before. And so you can actually create this really robust kind of conversation in real time. I think it's a very unique period of history that we're involved with, having social media and the ability to do this sort of stuff.
I have a question for you. The comments in the chat, do they stay?
So, look, if you go to YouTube, I think there's a button now you can click to listen to watch the comments that were during. But if you go to YouTube after the interview is finished, you'll only see the comments after. But if you look carefully, somewhere there's a button you can click, and they're all there.
Okay.
But unfortunately, even in the feed here, they go so fast that they just drop off the top once it reaches a certain number. And as I've said many times, I just can't get Facebook working at the moment. So if you did want to have a quick little look, I know that Adrian just sent me a screenshot of some interesting conversations.
Yeah, because I would like to read them afterwards.
The Facebook ones are definitely there and stay there. Yeah. And to be honest, today, most of the interesting questions posed to you are in the Facebook group. It's a little bit small for me to see, actually. But there's a really interesting conversation going on over there with Russell Schultz and John Den and Gillian. and Hal
Oh, my
Southall and
buddies, my
Sherry.
friends.
Angela's over there.
Angela,
I reckon just to save time today, what I'll say to people, I'll highly encourage people, go and join our Facebook group. It's a private group, but there's some really interesting ongoing conversations there all week between interviews and whatnot. And it's in the description below. Just click it and join the group, answer a couple of questions just to save time today. And I will bring up some points that come across to the side here. I love Angela Lima.
Yeah, she's Brazilian.
Yeah, she's just said often dumb and dishonest go together.
Oh, she's one of those. She's one of those straightforward.
Yeah, I love it. She's coming on the show in a not too distant future as well.
Yeah, she needs to. She's good.
She-
She's straightforward. She's knowledgeable. She
Yeah.
left the church, but she attends here and Adventist today and
Yeah,
all that. So yeah, that would
yeah,
be very
definitely
good.
involved with the community.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find something else she wrote earlier about a resource that she does access as well. Maybe Angela, if you're still watching, could you cut and paste it and put it again? It's dropped off the top of my feed. If you just cut and paste it, you mentioned a Brazilian program you like to watch, and I'd like to add that as well. That would be good. Yeah, so you're saying, I guess, that you're not going to give me a nice answer about the once the progressive or the gospel Adventist goes, wow, hang on, for
I
me,
don't know. It's
why do they stay in spite of knowing she's lying in their mind? If they've chosen, again, I'm not saying that
there are other factors too. There may not be. There may be a combination. Family. Sometimes one person in the family finds out and accepts the reality, but that person is surrounded by numerous people, family, that don't want to hear, and you just call them, oh, you're apostatizing. That's it.
right.
Another thing, people don't study much, but that question, I know it's a lie, and all that, why do I stay? Honestly, I don't have an answer for that. Because from my point of view, it makes no sense, and I don't know why someone would do that. On the other side, I know that if someone is brought up in Adventism, born in Adventism, and spends years, 50 years there, sometimes they don't want to touch the issue, just keep the social part of it. I did this for a long time too. I did it for a long time, the social thing and all that, but it comes to a point. I have one advantage. My parents, although they were not Adventists, my father in Belgium is in the story. There's people who read that if they do read. He met a Adventist from the Reformed movement in Belgium for 3 months. He shared a room with that guy. And that guy impressed my dad with his habits, his ideas, and all that. And he gave. So when we got to Brazil, my dad found the school there. Said that's a good place, for people like this. But he was smart. He figured out very quickly that whatever they were talking there, he went to church for some time, but all that he was researching. He stayed home, never went back. So very open-minded, always saying, God gave you a brain to think, use it. Don't expect some miracles in your life, visions or dreams for yourself, and all that.
I like that.
God gave you a brain, use it.
I like
so I don't know if people are using their brains properly or in full. There's another factor there.
Yeah, no, I like it, and that's another good thing about the conversations we have, is we're discovering. We don't have to have all the answers to enjoy discovering. What is it in Ecclesiastes? where the writer says that it's the people who have the yearning for wisdom that will find the answers. So often it's just the desire to gain wisdom that helps you take the next step to having a more abundant life. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
and do the right thing. If you read something that is opposite to what the Bible teaches, and you believe and you're a Christian, so should be Bible based, and you see something different, reject it. What did the Berean do?
Mm,
You see, there are many Adventists who stayed with Ellen White and all that, and we say, what did the Berean do?
mm,
It's a killer question. Anyone who knows me from the blogs know when someone starts preaching some, this and that, Ellen White and that, I have a simple question. Did you read in full Steve Daly's book, Ellen White Psychobiography? Yes or no? Don't
yeah,
comment. Yes or no. You know what? End
yeah,
of the conversation.
exactly.
They never return. That's
Yeah,
it. That's
yeah,
over. So
yeah,
I know, and this has been working for me in blogs for 20 years. It's a
yeah,
killer. The
yeah,
guy starts fighting you, just a simple question. Did you
yeah.
read Ford's book?
And the
No, but
traditional Adventist doesn't want to break
I
the
heard
commandments,
people.
so they won't
I
lie.
Yeah, I heard from people who read that is not good. Did you? Yes or no? And it's usually a no.
Yeah,
All these apologists, they
yeah,
didn't read the material. They're
exactly.
just crazy.
Mm,
They're just
mm.
attached to it
And I think
blindly.
the
Why?
original manuscript
Why?
that Des presented at Glacier View, I don't think of the 100 and nearly 50 people that turned up, I don't think many actually read it.
Oh, I know one that came, one Brazilian that was on Glacier
Oh,
View.
really?
Yes, he was actually in a higher position in the church in this strata there,
Mm,
and one of them, and I know he didn't read it.
mm,
He never touched it. God never read it. Just
mm.
went there and voted against this.
Yeah, yeah, wow. Yeah,
Well, talk about honesty.
yeah,
You see,
yeah,
with
yeah,
people like this, what can we expect?
yeah, very true.
Hmm?
Angela has just cut and paste what she said there. It's TV Camino. How do you pronounce that? Livre, Livre, run by Paulo Caesar. He does
What's that?
several days a week in Brazil in Portuguese. As many followers, I listen to him often. TV Caminho, Caminho,
Caminho. TV Caminho.
and then Livre.
Livre.
Does that mean just live? And it's by Paulo Caesar, Cesar.
No, I
Sure of that
don't
one.
have a
Yeah.
clue what she's talking about.
Yeah, Angela's just recommended that as a good place to go to watch resources on confronting some of the Adventist sort of message.
Ah, okay.
So I want to just spend a little bit of time before we look at some of the what does a healthy progressive Adventist, not organization but community or gathering, look like. Can you share with us your involvement with Spectrum magazine, because you've been involved with them for quite a long time,
Yeah.
and tell us how that began. Tell us what is Spectrum's kind of mission statement, and tell us a bit about some of the articles you've written.
I got Spectrum in Brazil, the magazine, when they started, actually a little bit, a few months after that, and I was following. Was very interesting. I didn't know exactly what it was. I mean, a good magazine, great articles, very high
What
intellectual
year was
level.
that? What year was that?
It was, I would say, a year after they started, but I have no
Sure,
clue. I
when,
was still a
right?
student, I guess. I don't know what year they started publishing.
Someone might be able to put in the comments the year.
People should know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. And then my involvement was not much. It's just I was very active here probably for the last 20, 25 years. We had a very dynamic group on Spectrum. Very
Mm,
dynamic, very
mm,
fun. We had a lot of fun there, with some jokes. Some people were very serious. I was not that serious. Sometimes I would break that toxicity of seriousness with some jokes and
yeah.
all that, and people could laugh and okay, let's move on to another thing. So we were very active there. We had probably, I would say, a group of probably 30 people that were, Lane Nelson was very good, and so many people. And that was moving very well. And then something happened around, I would say we're 23, probably to 2017 or so. There was a change of culture
All
at
right.
Spectrum Online. Suddenly things changed, and there was an incident there that
What
that
way?
they scorched me with something, the web ad, because I was confronting someone who was saying some reversed racism. Okay, another story. And the tension grew up, was raised, and at the end of the year, in December, I put in one comment, in one session, I put like Happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year for everyone. And the web ad blocked me for 30 days because
Why?
of the out of context. So we knew something is wrong. Then Elmer Cupino, he might be in the audience today. He said he will be probably here today. And he put something too when he saw my thing, and he was blocked too. So we just left. We never came back after 30 days. That was ridiculous. And then what happened? I just look at the numbers of comments online. So many people just disappeared, and from 1,000 comments from one article, now they had 3, 7.
Why? What happened?
People just demanded.
Was it because the Spectrum was suddenly trying to be too controlling?
Yeah. And then when Alex Carpenter took over now and all that, and that was not, that was a web app doing this, was not, what's her name, that before Carpenter, I forgot her name. But when Alex took over, things start changing. The culture is healthier now, is good again, and all that. So I have been participating a little bit more now. So
Right.
just that. I never wrote any article for them,
Oh,
but
I
I
thought you'd
participated
written
a lot with thousands and
with the
thousands of
comments and things. Yeah.
comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Always
someone in,
motivating conversation. You see, always motivated, throwing ideas and questions, making people to think. Think about
yeah,
this, think about that,
because someone in the comments way back said, "Oh, George Tichy, Spectrum commentator extraordinaire," and I just assumed must have been writing articles, not just commenting in the.
No, just commenting. I
Yeah,
never wrote. But if you put my comments together,
this is not.
uh,
It'd make several articles,
several books.
several books.
Yeah, and
Oh,
always with this idea of fomenting is not the word because it's a little bit negative, of promoting, of challenging and helping people to, inspiring people to think about things.
mm.
It's like, oh, okay, this is another thing not pertinent now.
No, that's all right. Tangents.
But I like Adventist Today a lot too. I participate there too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, I think
they are doing a great job. I tell you.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I think you may have managed to score an interview with me and Lauren.
yeah. He said in January, right?
Yeah, I haven't chatted to him, but you've contacted him on my behalf, and I appreciate that. So
Yeah,
I'll send him a message today and say, "Hey, great,
yeah. Send a
let's book a
message because
time."
it's time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're doing a great thing too. What do you think? Could part of the spectrum change in 2017 been because maybe some of the leadership was wanting to kind of not be so controversial, and they wanted to bring it more into a supportive role with the church? Were they getting flack from the Ted Wilson kind of
We never
side of
figured
things?
out. I tried to find out, but it was not transparent, and I don't know what happened. And at that point, I jumped into Adventist Today. I forgot that I started
Yeah, yeah.
supporting Adventist Today, and they do. I think that they actually do pretty good job, both of them, let's say. But
Mm,
Adventist Today is more concerned with what you are concerned,
mm,
with
mm,
the role of the gospel Adventists. They
mm.
are searching for, you should join forces with Lauren, with Adventist
Yes,
Today.
I'll
They're
add
doing
their
a
link.
marvelous job.
I'll add their. I guess the link I brought up earlier about the. I'll just quickly bring it up again so I remember what we've called it. Adventist Gospel Network. It's a place for people to be able to go and talk about the good stuff within the Gospel Adventist thing. So a
Mhm.
place like Spectrum wouldn't be a good link to share, and maybe Adventist Today would be. I don't know, because they're more presenting information on a variety of. So I'm not putting SDAQ&A in the links because it's too varied. I want this
Mhm.
to be a place where people go to links just to gather together around the Gospel Adventist theme.
And Spectrum has a weird thing. After those frictions that happened, they came up with a policy. They would keep the comments for an article open only for 7 days.
Oh,
That's a Soviet type thing.
yeah, that's
I
right.
disagree with that. Profoundly say, well, now after people complain, so they have this policy: 14 days. Article stays open for comments for 14 days. I still don't get it,
Yeah, yeah,
because someone might read the article
that's
3 months
yeah,
from now and make a comment, cannot comment. So
yeah,
this is honestly, that's a really stupid policy.
yeah,
Adventist Today is very much open, much more open. You can write your opinion
yeah,
as long as
yeah,
it's not offensive. You
yeah.
write whatever opinion forever
I
there,
like
no
that.
problem.
Yeah, that's good. People can come
It's
back
much
to it,
better.
engage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carl's Chronicles has just asked me a question. He's agreed with you there that Adventist Today is a great magazine. Hey, Peter, have you thought of interviewing Alden Thompson, now retired from Walla Walla? So, yes, I've actually already interviewed Alden. If you go and join the Facebook group, he's in season 2 somewhere. And a fantastic interview. I really enjoyed it. It's a couple of years ago now. And he was recently asked to become on the show with I can't remember which interview it was, but he declined. I think he felt it might be a bit too controversial. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
another one that's good is David Thiel. You know him?
Yes, yes. So I've interviewed him a couple of times.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
And
yeah, he
he's
is excellent.
very,
I'm good friends with him in online for
because
a long time.
he's in the E14 family as
Yes,
well. Yeah,
yeah, and he is
uh,
very good. He is so good.
yeah.
Yeah, as a theologian. Yeah.
And Adrian has just put across a comment that was over in Facebook. Thank you, Adrian, for doing that. That really helps. Doug Hackelman is working on Cottrell's biography and is close to finishing volume 1, he tells her, about Ray Cottrell's grandfather who worked with E.G. White and Uriah Smith, etc. I interviewed Doug Hackelman also during season 2, excuse me, and I'm very keen to get him back on the program. He wrote that book, what's it called? Who Watches, Who Cares? Something along those lines. And in it, he talks about Davenport and all the big
Mm,
controversial things that have
yeah.
happened within the church.
The fiasco.
They had the fiasco, exactly.
One of them,
Uh, yeah, yeah. Well,
interview Davenport,
yeah, yeah. In fact,
Falkenberg.
that reminds me, Robert Lindbeck donated me, I think, a box of Doug Hackelman's books, and we're going to make them available free plus postage. So I'll get onto that. If Robert's watching, I apologize for a 2-year delay on that one. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Ray Cottrell? Because he would have been around in the day when Des was kind of
Oh,
piquing your
Cottrell?
interest? Yeah.
Yeah, he lived in Loma Linda. I attended a couple of meetings when he was talking and all that. I think he was really a wise guy, very honest, and
Mm.
he is interesting because this this came from Australia to PUC with a background. They already you know the story of the exchange, and they sent him as quickly as possible, out of Australia to PUC. And so he already had a something in the background that they were keeping an eye on him, like almost like a cobra waiting
To
to
pounce.
catch him.
Yeah. They wanted
He
to take
opened
him
his
down.
mouth, and that was it. The cobra got into his mouth. Cotter was a little bit more conservative, not conservative, but not that open about it. He was, working on he worked on the commentary and all that, and he was not as aggressive like this, but his ideas, yeah, were exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. In
Yeah,
fact, he did a forum meeting, I think the month before Des's October 27, 1979 meeting, that was going to be a small gathering, and then that got bigger and had to move to one venue and then even a bigger venue. And I think there was over 1,000 people there in the end. And it's I've often pondered, Cottrell kind of said the same kind of thing a month
yeah.
or so earlier, and it didn't make a dent at all.
He started Adventist Today, you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he started Adventist Today. He
Wow.
with Jim Walters, I guess. If I'm not mistaken, it's Jim Walters. But Cottrell, he was the mentor. He
Mm.
started it in Loma Linda years
Wow.
ago, around, it was before 1994.
Mm.
Before, because at 94, I was teaching at the academy. And I remember that at the time I got acquainted with this, so it was not long before 94, in the 90s. Yeah.
Mm.
And he started that. He was the
Wow, I didn't
mentor
know that.
and leader. Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
You
And
see,
some
wisdom. He was looking into the future, and look what happened to Adventists today now, right?
yeah, yeah. See, it's had a big impact.
Yeah, very
Uh,
big.
I'll just bring up two comments. Carl's Chronicles has written again, which this is Carl Wagner, by the way, who we have linked in the Gospel Network link. He's got a fantastic YouTube channel. Thanks for your comments there, Carl. And you've mentioned there that you love Alden Thompson. You've had numerous meetings over more than 25 years since your return to the church after your own 22-year journey, which we discussed in our interview. Could you ask Alden on my behalf? He may think that I would be trying to give him a hard time, maybe. Um, if I'd love him back on the show. When I interviewed him, he didn't realize I'd left the church until towards the end of the interview, and he wrote me this really lovely email afterwards that was very accepting and a very caring interview, a caring email. So maybe, Carl, you can ask Alden on my behalf, and we can have a great chat, and just let him know I wouldn't be trying to trick him or have a gotcha moment. Motor Sapiens asked you a question there, George. Mr.
Mhm.
Tichy, coming from the Czech Republic, did you ever hear Daniel, is it Duda?
Oh,
Dada?
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We're kind of acquainted, let's say, because he noticed that one time, on a chat or something, he actually called me, said, "Oh, you're Czech," and he's Czech too. He's Slovak, I guess. That's the same thing.
Mm.
And yeah, I know him. He's a very bright guy, and I was very happy when he was selected. I was actually surprised that he was nominated for the division. Because I think, now this is a personal perception. I think that he's very knowledgeable about everything that we are discussing, and he is very open-minded.
Mm.
So I was surprised. Sir, said they got Daniel Duda for the division. Are
And,
you
it-
kidding me?
and
This is good.
that's recent, is it?
Yeah, and that's
Wow.
good news.
Mm.
See,
But I wonder if he
not
would
him a
speak
lot.
openly. I wonder if he would
Yeah,
speak openly once they join the system. they often start not
So
talking
bit
anymore.
by bit, maybe. But I'm very Peter. I'm very concerned with one thing. I'm very concerned that the LGT and the ultra-conservative people, they are gonna keep things blocked.
Yeah.
Look at this. Someone said it the other day. Who was that? Well, it's not. I'm copying here, not plagiarizing, but copying. Universities all open the gates of the barn gates. Churches close the barn gates.
Mm.
Very profound, because that's exactly what Ted Wilson is doing.
Yeah, he
You
definitely
see?
is.
And so I'm
Yeah.
concerned with that. And actually, in terms of the next election, my intuition, it's an intuition of someone who is 70 years in the system. I'm 73 now. I was 4 when we moved there. My intuition is that the next president will be Ayrton Curler,
Yes,
a
a few people.
Brazilian.
Yeah, a few people have said that.
He was the president of the division, and suddenly he was taken by Ted out of the division in the middle of the term, taken to be a secretary. So they are
At the
grooming
GC.
this guy. They are
Yeah.
grooming him, and I want
And
to
they
bet
know that
9%.
and they know that the Brazilian Adventist population is very conservative, and so they'd get a huge voting kind
Yeah,
of block there.
and if that happens, that will be a disaster.
The reality is that whoever is in next will be a Ted Wilson protege.
Yeah, I
The
don't know Ayrton
Liberals are not going to get
personally.
the Liberals are not going to get back in.
No.
There
I
will
don't
never
know
be another
Ayrton.
Jan Paulson.
I don't know him personally, but I knew his father. His father was, when I was probably 10 years old, 12 years old in school, his father was a student, a theology student, became a pastor. So I know him from that time in school. Very nice guy and all that. I don't know color, but this story about being called from the division to be secretary, that stinks,
Yeah.
So who knows? Yeah, I might be wrong.
I've left the Moto Sapien one up because he says he also lives in Reno and works in Tahoe and hopes to see you around town one day to say hi. That's Moto
Okay.
Sapien. I'm not sure of Moto Sapien's real name, but he might be able to message you. Well, just briefly, your thoughts on the compliance document, which had about 6 points, one of which was women's ordination, that if you were at union or division level, you had to comply to these various things. Another one was the 6,000 earth. That's how old it was. I cannot find it online, but it was around for a bit. But the evidence of it is in the meetings they had at the council, I think 2019, where 6 unions, I think 4 were, I think they were all warned at the end of the day, but
The
2 nearly
discipline.
became reprimanded. And then the next year they were going to have, if they hadn't turned around their view on women's ordination, the Norwegians, the Danes, North American division, I think, if they hadn't turned around within the year, they were going to be reprimanded. And then there was other sanctions after that were just ridiculous. But what happened the next year is lockdown, COVID hit, so they didn't have the meetings, and then it kind of got just pushed under the covers a bit. And when they had their recent annual council all gathering together again, I couldn't find a word about it anywhere in the whole thing. And I don't think it's because Ted's backing down. I think he's just biding his time. He's just gone, I need to build up a bigger strength behind me, and then I bet it comes back in again.
Yeah, in the beginning, when they started that stuff, I remember, and my reaction was almost like, you know what? I am Czech. I don't want the Soviets.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was typically a manipulation, force, and they created that committee and or committees,
Yeah.
and they never applied. They never put it in onto work. And I always wondering why. Some pressure. Are they afraid that that can dismantle actually the church instead of protecting the church? Did
Yeah.
someone more sane got on board and said, "Guys, what are you doing? Are you crazy?" But
Well,
back to you said women's ordination, gender discrimination.
yeah.
They don't know what to do with the non-straight people. They have
Yeah.
thousands of them, always had. They
Yeah.
have no clue what to do.
Yeah.
They're totally ignorant about what modern,
Mm,
neurobiology, neuropsychology discovered in the past 30 years, 20, 30
yeah.
years. They know nothing about it. They make decisions without professionals
Yeah.
being involved. So
Yeah.
what can you expect? A
Yeah.
chaos, a fiasco.
Yeah. And I think it will rear its head again because it wasn't just a policy idea, it was voted into policy. And
Hmm.
Jan Paulson was in tears about it. And
Hmm.
and Ted Wilson said, "Well, you guys voted it in."
Yeah.
So I think it's just hovering in the background and will come back. I think he's biding his time. And I think there was some moments there where he
Jan
realized that,
Paulson,
sorry,
Jan Paulson actually attends the Sligo Faith and Reason Sabbath School.
right.
Yeah,
What's he
he's
like?
there.
Have you ever met him or chatted with him at all?
Not directly, but he chats with people he knows a little bit before the lesson, the presentation. He
Yeah.
chats with some people there. My Herbert Blomstead, you know Herbert Blomstead, the
I
maestro?
I know of him.
He attends Sligo Church
Right.
online.
Oh,
They're
that sounds like a really
fantastic
interesting
people
group.
there.
Yeah, yeah. Later you'll
Yeah.
send me those links. Um, so let's finish with and feel free to look. I want to get you back because I'd love to talk a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of the investigative judgment and what you think the official church statement is
Yeah.
and how it is not biblical. I'd love to get you back because I think you'd have a lot to say about that in a meaningful way. But for now, let's close on a positive note. What does it look like to encourage the progressive Adventists, the people you've mentioned, the links I've mentioned? What does it look like to encourage them to network a bit better? And B, what kind of conversations are going on in a healthy gospel Adventist community?
I think we have several or different a few areas. One would be, I would say, explore more um, science, what's happening in science, more dialogue about what is happening in science, in as science discovers, things in cosmology and things like this. I think this is a vital issue for groups to discuss. It's very positive because, when we have more facts, we have to deal with them, not just ignore. And good things can come from that because you are learning more from nature. I see so many people just disregarding nature.
Mm,
See, and I'm thinking
mm,
about the cosmos, the
yeah,
universe, or universes.
yeah,
So one thing would be, focus on that. Focus on spiritual strengthening without trying to work on a proselytizing way with your own members. Take the lid off. Don't keep people under the lid. Like here, everyone can express their opinions in freedom, or on the E14, or all those so many other blogs probably, and classes. So use put freedom of thinking to work. I
Yeah.
respect people. There's a positive thing that brings unity without necessarily uniformity. Another
Mm.
mistake that the GC is
Yeah.
trying to do, it's
Unity
about
through
this.
conformity. Yeah.
So create an environment where people are accepted, respected,
Mm.
and move on. You
Mm.
see?
61 Lone Viking, who I always enjoy his comments, says a healthy Adventist gospel community that can't exist. I guess the reality is that they're very few and far between, but there are healthy clusters of people gathering around to study the Bible. Someone asked a
Yes.
great question last night, and I didn't get a chance to bring it up onto the screen, but it applies to right now. Um, what what is the difference between a healthy community discussing kind of gospel Adventism and a normal Protestant gathering? What's the difference?
Maybe not much. I was member of other churches, couple of them, and for a while. Um, and the environment was very, 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 very conducive to developing sane thinking about spiritual things. Sanity is very important.
Mm.
And sometimes I don't see a difference. You know that there is in Germany a professor at the school there at the Adventist University in Germany. Forgot the name now. He's an Adventist professor. He lost his wife many years ago, and he remarried to a Baptist female pastor.
Mm.
So he's Adventist, and everyone knows about it.
Mm.
Yeah, and you shouldn't interview him too,
Yeah.
and it's not a secret. Andreas Bachman.
Right. I'll get you to send me that as well.
Oh, I
Yeah.
will contact him and we will ask him to
Yeah.
participate.
Because
He's a fantastic guy. Yeah.
not only did you put me on to Lauren, but also that guy Bart.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, Bart.
So that'll be a
Very
good interview
knowledgeable.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, Bart is fantastic. Yeah, but Andreas Bachman, he's married to, and sometimes he
Mm.
preaches her
Yeah. But
church.
he's an Adventist still.
He's an Adventist professor at the
In the
Adventist
Germany.
University in
Yeah.
Germany. I'm missing the name now.
Yeah.
And
That's interesting.
fantastic. So you see,
Yeah.
this separatism
Mm.
has to stop. Adventists are by nature separatists,
Mm.
elitism, remnant, better than everyone,
Mm.
and that paranoia with the Roman Catholics and the Protestants. They are after us. They are sick. This
Mm. Mm.
paranoia is called sickness.
Yes, yes, yeah. It's become a systematized sickness within Adventism.
Yeah.
A lot of progressives say to me, "Oh, Peter, look, just focus on Jesus and all of us, the traditionals and the liberals, we should all just be focusing on Jesus." I find that a deflection. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
What does that mean?
Yeah, it's like telling me off for you're not focusing on Jesus 24/7 or something.
Exactly. You probably saw this several times too. When sometimes in blogs discussing things or that, and people say, someone says, "Oh, you guys are wasting your time here
Yeah,
with these issues. You should be working for Christ."
yeah, that happens a
Ah,
lot.
come on,
And I always say, you can do two things. You can do that and this.
Yeah.
What's wrong
In
with people?
24/7, you need some sleep too,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and many other things.
Yeah.
So it's you said it right. It's to diffuse this thing about
Yes.
let's look upon Jesus and
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Do you have a picture at home? Do
Yeah.
you what? And
A-
usually,
And
I'm
it's a
sorry, but most times that I have seen this, I finally could find a big hypocrisy behind the scenes.
yes, that's interesting.
So that's
And
I always am
and
suspicious
it's
of
a
this.
kind of a higher moral ground, pious kind of thing. It's a judgmental thing, isn't it? It's like
Oh
if
yeah.
only you stop talking about the problems in the church, if only you stop doing that, it'd come good. If we all just focused on Jesus.
Hmm.
They don't have the what the strength to face conflicting notions. Is that the problem?
Say it
Uh,
again.
is it because they don't have the internal strength to cope with conflict and conflicting conversations? It's like from you were once you're a retired psychologist. What's going on in their brain when they want to deflect? And is it because they can't cope with
Denial.
stirring up their identity?
Yeah, for some reasons, for some probably unknown, everyone has a different history, right?
Mm,
So their background, the way they were raised. Oh, I am fifth generation of Adventist. Well,
mm,
so what? So things like this. So there is a lot of denial related to that go along with the deflection, trying to deflect,
mm,
and denying makes the person feel right and secure.
right,
If I'm right, if I'm in the right church, I feel secure. I
right.
felt safe until I was 30. Oh
Mm,
man, my roots were 3 miles down the ground.
mm,
Security, because then God, these people here, and so I'll be saved because all that stuff.
mm,
A major problem arises when any church, inserts itself between you and God.
mm.
You have a problem right there
Yeah,
because now the church filters God for you.
yeah.
The church should be on the side. I read this definition when I was in my early 20s or something. I don't know who wrote it. I don't have the source. I have the thought. It's not mine. It says, religion is what happens between you and God in your mind.
Mm, mm,
You see, the church. So,
mm,
what is the church for? Well, the church is where people who want to worship God go and they congregate to worship God,
mm,
not to worship the church or Ellen White or anything else.
mm,
So, what is the reality? What happens in our churches, actually, in any church,
mm,
basically. See, so religion has to become something personal, and
mm,
nobody can judge anybody on that.
mm.
Yeah.
And
So,
our self-identity is very closely intertwined with our
mhm,
beliefs as well. And if we've been born into a religion that imposed its beliefs on us and indoctrinated us,
mhm,
when we leave and we disentangle ourselves from that, it's very difficult to
very difficult.
regain your identity. Yeah,
Very difficult. It
yeah.
affected me for, I don't know, I might still have some reminiscent things from
Mm,
that experience, but in the first years when I learned about the flaws
mm,
and started to detach and be realistic, man,
mm.
that was horrible. And I look back and say, how can a church do that to you? And
Yes.
how comes? Now, how
And
many people?
yeah, and a genuine church offering pastoral care to its flock should also encompass those who have left the church with some kind of kindness and allowing them to let go. I don't care in the slightest, but I had 2 people contact me when I left, actually physically turned up and to talk about it, and they were very kind. But there's no system in place within the Adventist Church to offer any kind of care for those who've decided to leave. Now, it's usually like I've had people say, "Oh, you betrayed us," and "Oh, yeah, you've lost all your friends now, buddy." And I think, well, they're hurtful kind of things for pastors. That's pastors who've said that to me. If you're a genuine follower of Christ, if someone has decided to not be a part of your flock, you still need to offer some kind of, and in regards to the Adventist Church, I believe an organized, administratively supported follow-up for people, because they're guaranteed, people who leave are guaranteed to have identity issues. I was 5th generation Adventist, left when I was 55. I took a good 5 years to work through that in my head. I didn't think I was going to have to. I thought, oh, I'll be fine. And it was like, whoa, hang on. I had a lot of feelings of liberation, freedom. I was loving life more and more each day, but there was like a like a brain operation in disentanglement of a kind of a tumor in my brain that was being taken out slowly, and my new identity was coming in. And I'm so glad I persisted, but there was no one there to kind of offer any kind of, hey, you're going to go through this, and here are some of the steps, and how about,
No, because look, if you see the thing, and we all in this conversation, we understand that if you are part of the only church that of the last church that God has, the only church that He has on earth now. And don't tell me Adventists don't believe that. They believe this is the only. This is the remnant.
Yeah.
There's only one remnant.
Yeah.
If you leave the flock, you are making a terrible decision. You are going to be lost.
Yeah.
And this is. I mean, come on. This
Yeah.
is brainwashing. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
No, and so it's very small a world, in very small world, very encapsulated in a small thing. Is
Yeah.
the LMI thing and the Sabbath School and all that, and it's too small.
And you're punished if you leave in many subtle different ways.
Yeah.
I've played music in other denominations since 1983, Baptists, Anglicans, Episcopalians, Catholics, every denomination. They'd book me to play, and we'd do gigs for them. And I noticed that you'd be playing for the Anglicans for every week for a couple of months, and then the Baptists, and then you go back to the Anglicans, and you'd see members of the Baptist church were now over in the Anglican church. Yeah, we've just come here now. There was nothing. Pastors didn't care. They're not trying to hold this special thing together. And I think if the church wanted to try and honor their claim to be more loving and evangelical, they need to put into place a pastoral care system for those who leave the church that doesn't try to get them to come back, but just simply says, hey, we respect that you're leaving. Here's some things you might go through. We'd like to offer you some resources that will help you. Peter, they don't do that, and that shows me they don't care.
Peter, this is not going to happen.
I know. Sad.
Not going to happen. That's the culture. And the culture is, of special people. The LGBT plays a role in this now, and I project that this will be it is already a big problem, because it has been accepted in so many places, like, oh, it's coming from, the top. Yeah. Oh, this, and this is a terrible heresy. Imagine one thing. Imagine those youth. They teach youth. The youth people come up with this, and they have this conversions and all that, promising. And 20 years from now, everyone that believed that is still frustrated because could not win over their own sins.
Mm-hmm.
We sin every day. And so finally, what would be the result? Abandoning the church. Those people will leave the church later on because they were indoctrinated with false theology, false beliefs. I had with Kevin Paulson, we had Homeric discussions on Spectrum in the 2010, around that. Horrible. He came with so many ideas, he was an apologist, or is, for LGT. And I was asking, show me one person that reached the goal.
Exactly.
End of the conversation.
End of conversation. Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
LGT, bring me one person who
Yeah.
was able to really achieve, really get there. So what's stupidity? Teaching youth people, actually deceiving them with this false doctrine, only for them later on to abandon the church with their children and everything. They don't want to hear about this church that taught them this crazy thing.
Yeah.
Supported from the top now.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. So I don't know what's going to happen in general.
So I asked earlier that, what's the difference between a gospel Adventist gathering and a Protestant gathering? And you said maybe not much. What gems within gospel Adventism can't you find anywhere else in the world, in other gatherings and religions?
What gems?
Yeah, what kind of things would keep you interested in a gospel Adventist approach? There must be something there that keeps you interested beyond camaraderie. Are there theological aspects of the Des Ford, the gospel Adventist approach that you feel are a special contribution to add to the world of theology, religion?
I think that there's a little bit, you caught me on this one, define off cuff like this. Because in the, I need to think about that one. Should be easier to respond to that. I agree, but so you are thinking about the gospel Adventism. What would be the similarities with something in the Protestant world?
So we kind of established that a healthy gospel Adventist gathering, say for example E14, and I encourage people, if I'm going to add their email link to that network group I've mentioned earlier, they're a healthy gathering. When I chatted to John last night, the Laminin Church is a healthy gathering, and the reality is there's probably not much difference between the message, the commitment, the mission statement of a Protestant church and a gospel Adventist gathering.
Yeah.
But so once we've established there's not much difference, what is something that, they're still under the Adventist banner? It's gospel Adventist. That's still honoring a heritage. Is it just a heritage? Is it just camaraderie? Or are there theological and doctrinal gems that Adventism have that need to be shared with the world?
I don't. Okay, now I got a few ideas on this, because I in Brazil, when I moved to that Baptist church, and actually it was interesting. They had a tradition. That pastor started that church there, built a nice church, and had a good congregation, very friendly, very warm. But he was teaching every Sunday morning, actually 3 times a week, Sunday evening and Wednesday. And we went to those meetings because he was a marvelous preacher. Why? He was teaching from the Bible, lessons that were great, but focusing on the Bible. I think that the gospel Adventism should develop this ability to focus on the Bible only. and that would be a similarity there with them. And when you say, what does Adventism have to teach the world? Just the traditional Christian doctrine, which the Protestants are teaching. Adventist doesn't have something marvelous suddenly out of nothing.
No.
Yeah,
So in
they
that sense,
keep
it's
this
more of the same, but
more of the same.
there's a unique subcultural camaraderie that comes out of gathering people that have had a similar history.
The camaraderie in those churches, I don't know too many of them. I know a couple of them that I've been, was exceptionally good, was great. And Adventists have this too. I mean, look at the gatherings, the social gatherings, the potlucks, and all that. That's always is a good stuff. So it's and I don't see honestly anything that Adventism can bring to the table that is so. After 2,000 years, suddenly, woof,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
it's all the same.
yeah.
Adventists are not better than the Baptists. Baptists are not better than
Mm,
any
mm,
Lutherans, Methodists, different branches of the same
mm.
tree.
In fact, I'd advise, and I'm loving this conversation because it's helping me. If I'm sending people to Adventist gospel groups, Sabbath schools, websites, whatever, I don't want those groups to be going, we're a little bit more special than the Baptists and the other Protestants. We're not Adventists. We've done away with the silly woo-woo, but we are a little bit more special. We've got something a little bit extra special to offer. I'd hate that would happen.
No.
I'd immediately
Why?
stop sharing links if I
No.
thought that was happening.
Because this is arrogance. This is spiritual arrogance
Yeah,
being, it's growing again.
yeah,
This
yeah,
has to be eliminated for once, forever.
yeah.
That's it. It's a Christian church with different branches.
Mm,
One focus on this, another. Look at the Catholic Church that has been bombarded by Adventists now, and now they're bombarding with 1 billion plagiarized books
great
and all that.
controversy. Mm,
Come on, let them do their thing their way. They
yeah.
are great in social aspects. They do very good things in education. They have their strengths. Baptists, everyone has their strengths and their flaws.
Mm,
Why should Adventists be different?
mm, mm, exactly. And
Look
I
in the
wonder
mirror.
sometimes um, if the groups of gospel Adventists, as we're kind of starting to define them, um, are they in a way separating themselves from the mothership, but instead of going to just rooms on the ship, they're going into the lifeboats. And at some point, those lifeboats might be lowered into the water and just slowly go off. Not new
Mhm.
organization, not new religion, but sometimes, like when you think of the billion great controversies going out into the world and the damage mentally they can do to people,
No.
sometimes and this is what happened to me, I I put myself into the Gospel Adventist lifeboat, and I probably was the only one in that particular boat at the time. And I went, okay, I'm still an Adventist, but I'm in my nice little safe Gospel Adventist lifeboat. And then gradually, as I saw the entanglement of the Ted Wilson stuff, the women's ordination stuff, the cray, the Earth is 6,000 years old, I just found myself slowly winding down the down the
Yeah.
lifeboat into the water. And then there was that moment, an interesting thing I may have or may not have said live before, but I'd said to a friend about 9, 10 months before my birthday, I'd said, I will not be a Seventh-day Adventist by my next birthday. I don't know
Mhm.
why I said it, but it was out loud. I'd made a claim to someone that was going to not hold me to it, but remind me about it. And then on the Friday, which was about 3 days before my birthday, I think on the Monday, I wrote a post saying, this is my last Sabbath as a Seventh-day Adventist. because I knew I'd set myself a time frame. And so I'd lowered the lifeboat into the water, and then that night I just cut the tie and floated off. And I feel like that was a really healthy thing for me to do. I wonder, and I said this to John last night, with their Adventist their Gospel Adventist church at Lamington or Leamington or what it is exactly. I wonder, they've got this beautiful lifeboat created there. I wonder if there's going to come a time, instead of a big split in the church, that some of these Gospel Adventists are just going to slowly lower their lifeboat into the water and just separate. Not start a new church, but just enjoy the gathering. Do you think that is possible to happen? Is it a good thing if it happens? Because sometimes I think staying with the mothership, even though I like to really come across that I'm not trying to tell people to leave, sometimes I sit there and I ponder, boy, if I was to bring children into this, as I started to do, if I was to encourage people to come into the church, even though I've got my nice little Gospel Adventist group, by putting my name to it, I am effectively creating a space where people can come in to the church or be born into the church and stumble across things that could really affect their mental health. And that's again back to this idea of, okay, great, you found your little lifeboat, you're staying on the boat, but is it healthy to not lower yourself into the water and just ship yourself off from the main ship?
I like your illustration with this. I'm thinking at the same time, think about Niagara Falls. So somewhere there in the river up there, there's a big mothership with all these lifeboats still. And the lifeboats suddenly go into the waters and they disconnect. And they go to the margins and have different experiences there, different kinds of experiences. And mothership is going toward the fall. I hope that happens to the lifeboats experience that you're saying. It's a very good illustration because it's like they have to detach at a certain time, cannot stay with. Have to stay, have to detach.
See,
and that's a good illustration. They go to the margin, do something, go a little bit more upriver or downriver.
Couple of lifeboats gather together and hang out.
Exactly. And I hope it happens because that would be a marvelous experience for those people, like so many on this meeting here now that are craving for something like this. It would be a great thing to do. You see, it doesn't have to be a big, giant administration with levels of this and the money. Oh, the money! Now it's something else.
Yeah.
Here, okay. Let's leave that alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Follow the money.
I wonder if I wonder if there's a shift in my perception where I'm beginning to feel like, I think the way I'd like to say it is that, and a lot of people have said this to me in the last few years, that they didn't leave the church because of me, but they felt that I had normalized that it was okay if you did or if you didn't. And maybe that's where I'm at the moment with this idea of the lifeboats on the mothership. I'm not saying lower it into the water, but I am saying get into a lifeboat. And maybe there'll come a time where I say, I reckon you guys should be lowering those boats into the water.
Because in that ship, many things are happening there. One of them is manipulation of your consciousness and of your liberty, your ability to think freely.
Yeah.
It's been castrated. And that's for good. I always said it since I was in the 20s. Adventists don't like, they hate questions.
Yes.
You start asking questions, they start being nervous about it.
Very nervous.
Why are you asking this and all that?
That is a very true point.
You see, so
Adventists
that's not
more than other
healthy.
denominations. Like as I said, I since 1983, I've been very connected with other denominations as well as my at the time mothership Adventism, and I would notice that the other denominations were quite open, not all of them, but generally speaking, collectively, to people
Mhm,
sitting down and asking questions. They didn't mind the doubting Thomases. They acknowledged that Jesus said on the cross, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" There was a moment of doubt there. You don't say you've forsaken me if you haven't got a doubt.
mhm.
But Adventists seem to particularly hate. Whoa, hang on. And I'm glad we're having this part of the conversation because I, I'm realizing what it is that the
And
progressive
you know
Adventists.
why it happens, right?
Well, it's annoying me that the progressive do this, and I've realized it's because of this very thing that they don't like the why question. And I thought they were the guys that loved the why question, but they're
Uh,
the ones who've pushed back more than anything to me about asking why. Don't shake the ship. And I thought
you
the
know
progressive,
why? The
healthy
why?
gospel Adventists would be embracing the why question.
No, they can't, because if you ask why, Adventist, because it's a remnant church, it's the God's church, it's the most important thing God has on earth and all that stuff. They have to have answers for everything.
Yeah.
Then you ask a question that they don't have the answer. Why do? They get mad at you, or they give you a lecture of 2 hours about something else in response,
Yeah.
and they still don't like you because you are asking questions.
Yeah. And then the ad hominem attacks come out and,
Oh,
oh, you've
yeah,
betrayed us. And why don't you focus on
yeah.
Jesus?
That's the reason. Don't ask why, because it's
Mm,
tough. So that environment of is intimidating. You see, oh, I have a question, but I cannot ask the question because,
yeah.
this is why I love the E14.
Yeah. Okay.
E14 is a marvelous experience. It's something
Yeah.
else. That's the last thing I want to lose in my life is the E14.
Interesting. Tell me more
Yeah,
about that because I haven't been for a long time and I'm interested in pointing people their way. Convince me that I'm not being stupid doing so.
I don't hear. I don't hear much about the Adventist Church, the GC. Nobody cares about the GC. Nobody talks about the GC. They don't study Ellen White.
Yeah.
They study the Bible and they follow the quarterly. That's the interesting thing. They follow the
Wow.
quarterly, but every time someone prepares something different, that's much more intelligent, much more. It's a different level
Mm,
intellectually and spiritually, and it's so fulfilling. It's
yeah.
so great.
I
So
I
cells like this may pop up, everywhere
yeah.
one day.
I said in an interview recently that because I went to Avondale Sabbath School, primary school,
Mhm.
high school, college, taught at Avondale
Ah,
College and primary school and high
like
school.
me.
And and there's something about Avondale. Like I know most of the people in the E14 and know from when I was growing up. A lot of them were lecturers there. My dad was a lecturer there. Des Ford was there. Um, it was an amazing community. And where I lived
Mhm.
on they called it the hill. We were just near the water tower there, the famous kind of structure on the college drive. Um, it was an amazing kind of Adventism that honestly I've never seen anywhere else. So it's nice to hear you
Yeah.
say that the E14 is an extra special place.
I
I
would
I,
love
I just
the
wish they'd go live every week.
Yeah, I
You
would love to live there. Actually, in
mm,
1988, in 1988, yeah, I applied for immigration from Brazil to Australia. I want to be
wow.
Australian, not American.
Yeah.
And everything went fine the first stage of the application. So I jumped in an airplane and went to Sydney and
Really?
Brisbane. I spent two weeks there, and
Far out.
my friend John Pye, Des Ford actually indicated me, say, oh, talk to John Pye. He actually took me to his home for a few days.
Yeah.
And he took me to Avondale. I visited the college,
What
the
year was
school
that?
there. but it failed then because on the second stage, I needed 70 points to immigrate. I was 37 years old. So the points I got for age were the problem. If I had been 35 when I applied, I would have gotten the
Oh,
70 points.
wow. Oh, so you
Uh,
didn't decide, no, you're not going to. It just literally
so I
just
ended up
didn't
in
happen.
America. I came to America. I
Oh,
wanted to leave Brazil
wow.
in
You would have
1989,
loved
a
it
year
here.
later. Hmm?
That little culture of the E14 has been going since the 60s, that culture. It's been
Yeah,
there all the time, and
it's
I hope it
fantastic.
doesn't die off. That's what I
Norman Young is part
Yes.
of it. It's
Yeah,
great.
he's amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he and I are friends. He was one of the 2 people I told you that came and visited me when I left the church,
Uh-huh.
and he and
Big
I
heart, big
yeah, yeah,
mind.
big mind. Woo.
Big mind, big heart.
And he's open to admitting the foibles and mistakes he's made. Um, but,
And you see, when he did that, okay, everyone accept that's
yeah,
we like honest people,
yeah,
and
yeah,
honest people make mistakes.
yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah,
dishonest people make mistakes, and they're dishonest. Who likes those people?
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't.
And it's very interesting. I'll just bring up a comment here that Deanna wrote. Adventism is too complicated and confusing. I agree. And the
Yes.
interesting thing about E14 is it's not that they don't preach an Adventism and simplify it, and they don't make Adventism easy to understand. They make the gospel easy to understand, the Bible easy to
Hmm.
understand.
Hmm.
And that's again what I was saying before. It's kind of away from Adventism into a lifeboat, and they've created a really interesting subculture there. And I can see why they don't go live every week too, because people are more comfortable saying what they really think in a more private setting. But they accidentally emailed me the other day. I get an email every week. I sometimes watch and just don't put my picture on. Um,
Keep talking.
yeah, and they sent me an email, and they accidentally forgot to put the blind carbon copy on, and so I got to see all the email addresses. I didn't do anything about it. I didn't cut and paste and copy them.
Uh-huh.
But I know what I always thought was, there's 40 or 50 people that are the members, but
Yeah.
there's something like 300 email addresses, and I thought, well, it's bigger than I thought.
Yeah, but the attendance is not that big.
No,
It's
the
probably
attendance is smaller.
47, 50.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, consistent, and probably 10 people are the ones who, always keep talking and bringing ideas, discussing and all that. But
yeah,
it's a steady audience. But the
yeah,
environment is so good.
yeah.
If for me it's good is I get it here on Friday at 2 o'clock, 2:15.
Right.
So it's great, to start the
Yeah,
weekend
yeah,
this
yes,
way.
yes,
It's so
yeah,
refreshing. It's good. It's not biased. Is honest. Is scientifically, healthy. You name it.
yeah.
It's good. It's spiritually very,
It's a good
very
place. Yeah.
strengthening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll contact them this week and ask if they didn't mind me putting their email link into that Adventist network group, because I'd love people, because they can just contact them and they can say yes or no to
Yeah.
people joining. Man, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm just going to bring up my little QR code there. I haven't done that through the program at all. And I'd just like to, people might like to support my channel. Buy me a hot drink if you scan that QR code.
Mm.
Put a bit of money into my PayPal. That just really helps me continue the program. I'm about to invest in another part of some software that is going to be really helpful for getting the word out there, but it costs $29 a month US. So I'm already paying about 30 or 40 a month to have Libsyn, which is the hosting of the season 1 podcast, and I'm slowly
Mhm.
adding interviews there to try and eventually catch up. We're in seventh season now, so it's a big job. Um,
Yeah.
but that costs, I think, $30 a month. The restream's about $20-$30 a month, this platform we're using now. And this new platform, it's not a new platform, it's a new way to promote SDAQ&A out there in the big wide world. But it's about $29 a month as well. So I being a musician, I'm used to, I used to do some busking back in the day, and you'd be out in the street and you'd open your guitar case and you're saying, hey, if you're enjoying the music, here's my guitar case, throw some coins in. So I don't feel bad about, here's my content. If you're enjoying it, scan the code and throw some dollars my way if you're enjoying it. Because, it's becoming a big part of my life, and I'm really enjoying the community. And our conversation today is an example of that. We've got to know each other purely from you being a member of the group, and we've become friends, and we're having conversations, and I love, there's some hilarious comments that are always in the feed. And I've got this vision, George, that we all meet in Vanuatu or Fiji or Hawaii, SDAQ&A members that want to gather together, and we just gather together from a Thursday to a Sunday night, have a great long weekend of food and music, and just invite people to get up and share their thoughts and stuff. Do some live SDAQ&As from Hawaii. So I'm just planting a seed there, which I have done in the past. It'd be fun to have everyone like yourself, to Moto Sapien, to Gillian, to Adrian. There's a whole bunch of people. We'd have a great long weekend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really fantastic. Yeah.
It'd be great. The annual SDA conference.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, my very special guest today is Dr. George Tichy, and
George,
I hope that
drop the DR.
Drop the DR. But
Drop the DR.
George, I've really enjoyed this, and I hope everyone watching has enjoyed it as much as I have. I'm sure they have. We'll get you back. And
it's been a pleasure, I tell you. It's been an opportunity here because I participated for a while, and in the chat is very difficult for me because my vision, it's crazy.
Now that you've told me, I'm amazed how you can do it.
Yeah. So, but I enjoyed very much discussing these issues and making clear statements about certain things that have to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And there are many others,
And I tell you what, if you get a chance now or as soon as you can, there's been some amazing questions and comments in the Facebook group that I would have loved to have brought up. I'm going to spend some time now trying to fix it again. But yeah, go and engage, because
I will. I always do, because I used to see it watch it on YouTube. Next day or so, I go there. And I still fill in a little bit. So this one, let's see what they said there. I would be scared to go there.
And it's interesting. Our biggest audience now is YouTube, and I would love the YouTube members to go and join the private group. It's no money or cost to you. Just join the group, answer a couple of questions. You'll easily find it. It's in the description below, a link.
They should.
And those in the Facebook group, come over to YouTube as well, because there's some advantages with YouTube also.
Yeah.
So
you have the notifications, and they can write and put comments later on following a conversation.
That's right. Yeah.
Days after,
Yeah. I'm getting 20 or 30 messages a day now on the comments in YouTube, from not just from one show. As people are finding it, then it's a fabulous other way to keep in touch. So I highly recommend, if you're enjoying SDAQ&A, like and subscribe at YouTube. The link's below. And if you're on YouTube, go and join the group. We're nearly at 3,000 members now, and it's fascinating conversations over there. Really genuine, authentic people, just of all walks of life, sharing their views. Okay, George. Well, we'll say farewell for now, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you for this opportunity. I really enjoyed discussing these issues, and I will check the comments later on. I'm afraid of whatever they have been saying about me there, but I hope that after this interview, some of them will never be the same again.
Yeah. I should make that my outro.
I love that song, Peter. I love the song.
Oh,
And
thank you. Thank you.
that's a
Oh, yeah.
special. Only you can do that.
I wrote that in Ireland. That's why it's got a bit of an Irish feel. I was at the Cliffs of
Yeah.
Moher, and
Okay.
I was
Thank you
just,
again.
I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Actually, we've got a Dale Ratzlaff just died. We're going to, myself and Thunder are going to do a quick kind of
Oh,
reaction video just as a Dale remembered. So anyone watching, if you knew Dale, you've had any interaction with him, your life changed because of his books or his ministry, come along. 12:30 Thursday, Sydney, New South Wales. LA, 5:30 p.m. Wednesday evening for you guys.
yeah.
Come along, because I want people who want to honor Dale Ratzlaff's memory to I really want to get the comments fixed, because I want people to be commenting, so it's a lasting memory and tribute and a thank you to Dale Ratzlaff. So that'll be tomorrow. So did you know him at all or cross paths with him?
Me? No.
Yeah, no,
Never. No.
no.
Yeah, I heard about him, but yeah, never
He has
engaged
had a
with him.
whole kind of side thing going on that was a bit different to, yeah. But he also greatly influenced by Des Ford as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, Des certainly has influenced a lot of people for the good.
Yes.
Anyway, until next time, farewell to George, farewell to everyone. See you
Farewell
soon.
to everybody, and
Live on.
sign up for his Facebook page. Everyone
Yeah,
who is here.
yeah. Be great. Yes. See ya.